Everyone, Jeremy from Build People. Thank you for attending our webinar, how to conduct a truly effective merchant call, how to make more money out of your merchants, call it whatever you want to call it. Today we're going to be focusing on actual feedback from the merchants that can help you as a supplier and also be either a refresher or potentially you will glean some new information which you can use to become more efficient. Now, time is going to be half an hour. We're going to keep very, very stringent to that. We know that you're busy. Your time is better spent out with your merchants than in front of me. But the really, really key thing is I want to say is congratulations for being here. Because if you're here and you've committed to this, it's because you care and you want to improve. So I applaud you for being part of it. Now, questions. If you have a question, send us an email to Briar, B-R-Y-A-R, briar@buildpeople.co.nz. And if I have time at the end, I will answer them. Otherwise, I will come back to you independently after the end of the webinar. So, right, I'm going to crack into it because time is short. So, the really key points that I want you to take away today is communication and planning, introducing value, providing the right data, forecasting, how to work the store, record keeping and follow-up. Now, I realise that I'm going to say some things today where you'll kind of, there's either going to be one or two responses. You're going to go, oh, geez, I'm not sure about that. Or, oh, that's not going to work. Or you're going to go, I already do that. The former, I can't help you with. I haven't made any of this up. This is what the merchants have told me. 6 branch operators, a couple of trade sales managers as well. These are the things that they've told me, and the things that they've told me have formed the basis of the presentation. And furthermore, if you're already doing it, then 2 thumbs up. You're doing well, which is fantastic. So let's get straight into it. Communication and planning. So the first thing that I was told was to make an appointment. Make an appointment. Now, that's a fundamental basic. I would have thought that more people were doing that. It turns out that a lot of you aren't. The key thing about making an appointment is not only are you locking in the time, but it gives a certain gravitas to your time. And you may even do that, I would have thought, with an agenda in mind. So going in and saying, look, we've got some data to show you. We need to talk to you about some stock issues. We've got a new product to show you, all those sorts of things that we'll get to later in the webinar. But make an appointment, guys. Lock in the time with your client. If you can get an hour, I'll make a really, really key point on this here. If there's sales managers or sales leaders in on this webinar, you going along to that appointment is a good thing, but only if you are going to add value. Just going along in the hope that you can sit there and listen to some stuff or just be part of it. One of the really key things that came out of my discussions with merchants was, quite often the head honcho, the big man, turns up, and there isn't a lot of value added by that individual in that meeting. If you're going to be there with your rep, make sure that you are forcing an agenda or that you have something of real value to add. So make an appointment. The second thing is, I believe that any salesperson in any situation should be doing this. If you're going to go in and do a call, I would think that you would have an A objective, a B objective, and a C objective. For the sake of this webinar, A may be introduce a new product, B may be book a training breakfast, book a trade breakfast, C might be, go and train the new guy in the aisle. So A, B, and C objectives, tick them off as you go. And the third point here, a really key point was made to me in the store. I was having a chat to a group of guys running a trade counter. And a really, really key point that was made was if a supplier rep is not bringing value, then they're just a distraction. We've got our own job to do. Answering the phone and doing the things that we've got to do, dealing with our trade clients, and if they're not helping us with that stuff, or if they're not adding value or showing us how they can make our life easier, then they're really just a distraction. But I also think this is not an existential question by why am I here by any means, but rather, what is your purpose? Why do you exist? What do you do for your employer? What do you do for your clients? And how do you bring value. What do you really do? And that might take a bit of navel gazing. I'll leave you to do that in your own time, or rather for you guys to strategize as a team, but you really need to start understanding why you're here. It's probably all about demand creation. It's all about creating sell-through, and there's a number of ways that you can do that. But yeah, come to terms. You've been doing this for a while. Remind yourself of why you really exist, and if you're new to this, then it's as relevant a question. Why am I here? What am I actually doing? How do I provide value? And if you're not sure, ask your client. What do you want from me? What could I do better? Now, another fundamental basic for all salespeople when you're dealing with a merchant, of course, is who makes the decisions here? Why am I not getting the traction that I want? Why am I not getting what I would like to get? There's every chance that you're not dealing with the decision maker. Now, in talking to the merchants, one of the things that the operators were kind of amused about was that they would watch a supplier rep, and over time that supplier rep will build one key relationship in store and keep pushing that key relationship without realizing there's a whole range of other people around that. And I would certainly think that you should be thinking to yourself all the time, one, am I actually dealing with the right person? If I'm not, how do I accelerate that? And if you want to get in front of a branch operator, then maybe getting your boss to call him and make an appointment so he introduces you to him. And then, of course, you are able to drive that relationship at a more senior level. Who is the decision maker in store, the real decision maker, and am I actually dealing with them? Moving on, thank you, Georgia. Right, now we're going to talk about introducing value, an all-important word, value. So, what we want to talk about is the things that your merchants expect from you when you come in and make a call on them. So, consider the following. Competitor activity information. So what are your competitors doing in that geographical area? What are your competitors doing within that particular store channel? And what are their products? What are they pushing? How are they doing it? You need to be all over your competitors, guys, especially if you're in something which is very, very fast moving, power tools, adhesives, fastenings, something along those lines, hardware. You've really got to know what's moving. What are your competitors pushing? What are they doing well? And I'm not talking so much about, having a little bitch session about, a competitor rep and, what he does or doesn't do or she doesn't do, but probably more about understanding what your main competitors are doing in the market and how that's relevant to what you're doing. So not ignoring your category, but presenting as an ambassador of your category and knowing what your competitor's up to and how what you're doing is better. The second thing is category information around market trends. I think especially important if you are pushing a technology-based product or pushing a building product which is become very popular in terms of a legislative change or something that architects are doing or something along those lines. You must know what's happening with market trends, and that'll stop you from pushing dead horses in store as well. So here's what's happening in the market category. Here's where we see things changing for you in the next 3 to 6 or 12 months in terms of technology and what have you. The third thing is training and trade breakfasts. Now, training and trade breakfasts. Some of you will have an interesting attitude towards these things. But I would say to you that the onus is on you to ensure that your training and your trade breakfasts are delivered beautifully because they have their place and they are extremely important. Training from a sell-through perspective, people won't sell what they don't know, guys. It's really that simple, right? So you need to make sure that every single person in the aisle that's selling your product is absolutely trained to the gunnels on it. The second thing is trade breakfasts. Now, I know a lot of you are doing this. Some of you are doing it well. Some of you are not. So trade breakfasts, right? They have a purpose. They need to be very, very well planned. And you're not just there to answer questions. You are there to present new products. You are there to present new solutions. And after you've done your trade breakfast, the really key thing you need to do is follow up, get some constructive criticism on it, and then quite possibly go and follow up with those trade end users that were at that trade breakfast as well. How did you find it? Have you started using the product? Can I come and see you? Can I give you some samples? all those sorts of things. This is a very simple part of your demand creation, your sell-through plan, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that pretty soon. New product. What a gorgeous thing this is. Every single merchant said to me that they want to know about your new product, and that is a bona fide way of booking an appointment with them, getting time with them to show them your new product, to introduce your new product, because I want you to stop thinking that your relationship is enough. Everyone says to me, every single candidate I've interviewed in 16 years of recruiting in the building industry says to me, well, I build really good relationships. For me, that's just a fundamental basic of being in sales. Congratulations, it's like breathing in and out. You can build a good relationship, good for you. That's probably why you are having the career that you're having, because you're good at relationship building. So stop thinking that your relationship is enough and that you're getting everything that you want from your merchant because you have a great relationship. Relationships are bought and sold, ladies and gentlemen. It's as simple as that. So stop thinking your relationship is enough. It's great that you've got a good relationship with your merchant, that they're telling you things that your competitors are up to, and you're able to get time with them, and you can get into the lunchroom and have a cup of coffee and a biscuit and talk to the team. Those are stunning things. Fantastic, well done, right? But stop thinking that that's enough. Your job is to bring commercial value. How can I help you make more money, right? So in doing so, one of the key things I want you to think about is working the trade. And this goes back to a new product. So one of the things that I found really, really interesting was, I distinctly recall having a conversation with one of the branch operators, and he spoke about how he'd ended up ranging an alternative product. So a product outside a core ranged product that was pushed by a major supplier. And what had actually happened was that this supplier had completely ignored the fact. So of course the product had been ranged at head office level. I'm not here to talk about that. That's a different webinar. But the reality is that this product had been ranged, but it was not being stocked. So basically, what these guys did was they completely ignored the branch operator and the retail guys, and they went straight in through the trade, built some solid relationships with some trade reps in terms of, hey, we can help you guys make some more money, and let's have a couple of beers and all that sort of stuff. And went out to the trade end user. So went out to 4 or 5 major clients that this particular merchant deals with, got those 4 or 5 clients to say, yes, we're actually interested in this. We understand the product. We want to use the product. It's a collated screw system. And, we're very interested in purchasing that. Then they went back to the branch operator and secured some forward orders on that product based on feedback from the trade reps. Now, the feedback from that branch operator was that he was absolutely floored. He just thought that was absolutely fantastic. So we've already created a little market for you. We've already got some sales. Let's get this product churning through the store. Before you know it, it's on the floor. It's ranged. It's moving out of there. You've got the trade team behind it. Let's do some trade breakfast. Let's back it up with some really, really good training. Let's do some in-store stuff. Hey presto. So work the trade, man. Work the trade. Right, Georgia. So data. Let's talk about data. So one of the really, really key things that you can use to your advantage here is sales data. Now, one of the things that may not be apparent to you, but became apparent to me when I was out there talking to these branch operators, is that there's actually quite a lot of internal competition within these stores. Carter's branch managers, Placemakers branch managers, the ITM branch or branch ITM owners. There's a lot of there's competition, right? And you can actually utilize that to your advantage. So one of the key things that I'll be looking for you to really maximize is to bring sales data of other stores within the group and be prepared to leverage that to push or drive a sales or sell-through agenda with that particular merchant. The other thing too that would make perfect sense to me, right? We know how much competition there is between Bunnings and Mitre 10. We know how much competition there is between Carter's and ITM. I won't talk about Placemakers. They're going through some interesting changes, but of course that's going to mean a slight changing in strategy for you. But you can actually utilize these things by bringing sales data and showing sales data of other stores that you're dealing with. One of the things that became apparent, sorry, just to go back to sales data for a second, year-on-year sales, really, really, really vital. And your merchants expect you to have that data immediately and readily available for them. And that data would actually form the entire basis of the key point that I mentioned earlier, which was make an appointment. So we need to come and see you to discuss sales data. We need to come and see you to discuss what other stores in the group are doing. We need to come and see you to discuss some things that are happening within the category. All of a sudden, you're positioning yourself as an expert. You are the person that, is that category captain, I think is the term that gets thrown around out there. How do you become that person, right? So sales data. So where are you guys at last year? This is where you're at now. Why has that happened? Why has there been an increase? That's great. Why has there been a decrease, and how do we address that? And something that Jib and, companies like Carter Harvey Wood Products, James Hardy, companies like that, one of the things that they do very well is they are in tune with the group home or larger builder sales, or certainly purchasing trends within that geographical area, and they work very closely with their merchants on that. So if you have access to that data, or if you can get it, then make it readily available. Don't assume that your merchant has got it and or is concerned with looking at that stuff. They'll be looking at what their clients are buying, but if you're able to come to them and say, hey, look, there's a couple of other people that are getting pretty aggressive in this town, and this is what they're buying, and I think we need to work with you on that, then that's going to position you in a place of strength. Quote conversion. If I was, heavily reliant on a specified product, or heavily reliant on specification and or builders making decisions about what they were going to put on houses, and you were quoting on a lot of that stuff, I would think that you would be in a position, and your merchants would certainly want you to be in a position to be able to talk about quote conversion and your successes or lack of success with that. Forecasting. I have quite a lot to say about this, so I'm going to try and keep it poignant as possible. I promised not to say these unprecedented times, didn't I? So I'm not going to say these unprecedented times, but one thing that we do find ourselves in is an interesting market that has created opportunity. And it's also created some drama, and it's created some issues, right? We know about that and we're dealing with it. We all are. But I think the really, really key thing here that your merchants are very, very interested in is stock, more so than ever, more so than ever. So essentially now a very, very, very key part of your role is to be working with your clients on your stock, right? And I'm talking about a 3-month, a 6-month, a 12-month forecast. You must know your lead times. If it's more than 7 days, you need to tell your merchants they need to know. But there's also a very, very good opportunity here for you to encourage forward orders. We're not exactly sure what we're going to have coming through. What I need to do is I need to secure that stock for you now. I really would encourage a forward order from you. These are the conversations that you can be having now, right? But the really, really key thing that you need to know about is you need to know what's coming through, what's on the water, what don't you have, do you have alternative product that could actually take the place of that if you need to, and your projected volumes in line with their projected volumes for the next 12 months. Because what it does is it gives you 12 months of meaningful conversations based on stock, right? So in other words, we came to see you last month. These are the things that we agreed on. We have an update for you on those things. We need to come and see you again. Oh, and by the way, we've got this new product. So, it's those, you need to think about the business side of it. The forecasting side is the business side. You can't sell it if you haven't got it. And, a really, really interesting thing that I think has happened between the last time I gave this webinar and now is that I judged the Hardware Awards, and that was, the trade account manager segment very, very interesting this year to see that, these performing reps inside merchants are very, very, very on top of this, more so than ever before, because of course they're the guys that are at the front line with their clients, getting it in the neck if they can't get stock from their suppliers. And what they're now doing is they are either in their own time or in a way that is endorsed by their employers, are starting to investigate alternative suppliers. And we've seen that with nails, we've seen it with frame and truss, we've seen it with tools and fastenings and a range of other things in the market. And I think that if you're a second or third tier supplier, I think there's an incredible opportunity for you here. I would be all over those trade reps and then following through the formalities into store, because I think you will start to find that the major suppliers are just getting absolutely hammered. So I think there's a really, really cool, if you are of course a major supplier, then have a beer. Things must be interesting. But I think the really, really cool thing is that there's opportunities here for everybody, and I think that that's, looking at what have we got, and how can we possibly look at pushing it into our merchants, or getting that into our merchants in a way that is going to help and add value to them. So without labouring that point, stock, really important. Know your stock, know your forecast, what's on the water, what are your lead times, and encourage forward orders. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to work the floor. And we're going to touch everyone. We're going to touch everyone that is involved with our product in any way, shape, or form. So, there's a few things I've spoken about here. I've spoken about the showroom. Why is A better than B, and all that kind of stuff. Why should you be directing clients towards our product instead of this product? Talking about the trade team, we're talking about the estimating team. Let's not ignore them. They tend to be quiet and tucked away down the back, but they have incredible value, especially if you are looking to end up on plans and get purchased that way. So what are we really talking about here? I think working the floor is about. It's about you probably have one key relationship or a couple of key relationships. I think working the floor, I think from a merchant's perspective, I think there's a couple of things. I think the one really key thing I'd like you to try and achieve, if you're not already, is to get your client, so the person most involved with purchasing your product, get them out to where your stock is. Look at the stock together. How does it look? Is it easily accessible? Is everything there? I think you going and looking at the stock and then going and having a chat to them, I think it's different from an inclusive call when you say, hey, look, walk with me. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Because the thing is too, is if they're stuck behind their trade counter or they're up in their office or whatever it is, then they're going to say, hey man, everything's cool, everything's fine, and you'll go, okay, cool, lovely to see you, tick, and then move on to the next call. And that's not a great call. You haven't added any value. So I think the really key thing is that you want to get them out to your product. Hey man, can we just have a look at what's happening in the store? That gives you an opportunity as well to look at what your competitors are doing alongside and discuss that with them. Hey, how have they managed to get this in here? That sort of thing. They will also find things to talk to you about once they're in front of your product, as opposed to them being on the other side of the store. So let's achieve that. I think that's a really key thing. Get around the showroom, the whole training piece. Why is A better than B? That's really, I think, the key part of it from a showroom perspective, is making sure that anyone that's going to be selling your product is well aware of why your product is better than a competitor's product and the absolute applications around it, so that they can sell that with complete confidence. And I think as well, if you're quoted in a house lot, then you have to be all over the trade and the trade team. And this is not just walking up to the counter and saying, are you guys okay? Get some muffins and some coffee into the estimating team. Get your calendar on the wall, get your pens in their hand, get, brand it, get your brand out there as much as you possibly can. That's really, really important because you will get very quickly forgotten, as we know, if you're not doing these things. So the estimating team, very, very important. And I'm talking, when I'm talking work the floor, I'm talking everyone from the receptionist, who's probably been there for years, you know, build a really cool relationship with her and touch everyone all the way up to the main man or the main woman, right? You're a supplier rep. Get in there and represent. So I want to talk about record keeping and follow-up. And, you know, whether or not you've got Salesforce or Excel or, you know, still doing calling cards, it just doesn't matter. You know, your job is to stay on top of this. You're a sales professional, and part of being a sales professional is keeping fantastic records, creating yourself an activity list, and knowing exactly what you should be doing. So let's talk about follow-up emails and calls. Very, very, very cool little way of appearing really professional. You know, giving yourself a reminder, it's there in your inbox, you know, and also being able to provide an agenda for your next catch up with that client, and that's what you're trying to achieve here. So John, so lovely to see you. Thanks for your time, an hour well spent. Attached to some of the data that we discussed for your records. We agreed that over the next month, these things were going to happen. I'll get in touch with Andy to book in a, you know, I've booked in with Andy to attend a trade sales meeting. So I'm going to be part of that. Things are looking great. And by the way, next time I come through, I'm going to have a new product for you. So, you know, that sort of thing. So you're setting a tone of follow-up and making things very, very clear about what your understanding is, but also what's going to happen next. And timeframes. Timeframes. Imagine if while you were there with a client, you just finished a meeting and you got them to open your diary and book you for an hour in a month's time. You know, hey, when, you know, let's get some time in your diary now. This is when I'm next back in your store. There's some real power in that. With the agenda being, your contact checklist is really, really important. If anything happened to you, or if you were to leave, the person that walks into your job should immediately be able to figure out where you are, who you are dealing with, and all those sorts of things. So there should be a contact checklist for every store. And this fourth one here, I just want you to stop and think about this for a second, because I hear this all the time. I heard this before I started preparing for this webinar, that the single biggest issue that your clients have with you is that you don't answer the phone. It's kind of right up there with not making an appointment. It's just a fundamental basic, guys. You know, answer your phone, get back to people within 24 hours. If you can't, let them know that. If you don't know the answer, tell them that, but let them know that you'll find the answer and that you'll get back to them. Just answer your phone. It's not that hard, I would have thought, but it's a real common complaint that I get, and it does actually cost you clients, and it definitely costs you orders. So please answer your phone. That would be absolutely fantastic. So we are at 10:28. We have a couple of questions. Will the webinar be recorded and passed on to my colleagues? Absolutely, yes. We will be sending around a link of this. Furthermore, if there's anything that you think I've missed, please do let me know. I think go and have fun out there, guys. You know, it's a gorgeous world full of opportunity, and I think we have the best job in the world, personally. So go and enjoy it. Let's have some fun. Enjoy yourself out there. If there's anything else you want to know, feel free to give me a call at any point, or send me an email, jeremy@buildpeople.co.nz, if there's anything I can help with. We'd also love to hear your feedback. So please do send us an email, admin@buildpeople or jeremy@buildpeople, letting me know if I was good, bad, average, or otherwise. Lovely to hear from you. We do have another webinar coming up soon, which is going to be focused on specification. So I'm going to go and talk to some architects. That's going to be fun. All right. Have a great week, guys.